On the Carleton College professor, leading incumbent Carlson 53 to 47%, albeit the gap is narrowed somewhat there. Secretary of State Joan Groh with a strong lead over Mark Hansen on the Republican side of the ledger, and the one Supreme Court seat that is up for contention, in this case John Simonette, who was appointed to the court in 1980, 65% of the vote. Jack Baker, 35%, with 7% of the precincts reporting. Back to Ann Rubenstein at David Durenberger headquarters at the Thunderbird. Ann?
Dave, Senator Durenberger just took to the podium, thanking his supporters, telling them to be patient. It may be a long one.
With their feelings about government. I'm not just talking about the national government or the Reaganomics that a lot of the experts are quizzing us on all the time, but talking about state government and local government, and then talking about the impact that government has had over 20, 25 years on the family and on businesses and on religious and nonprofit association and all those kinds of things. So in a wide variety of ways, the fact that a lot of Minnesotans used the vote this year is probably the most significant contribution that we Republicans made in 1978 and are going to continue to make in this state and in this country over the next 6 years. This was really supposed to be a one-party state for a long, long time. And I expect to be the first Republican senator re-elected in 30 years in this state. But the real significance lies in the fact that a lot of you and a lot of people that aren't here tonight in the last 4 to 6 years started breaking your pencils and saying things can be a lot better. This is a state that has been known for good government, not just expensive government, for a long, long time. And the kinds of contributions that you have made to my being a senator over the last 4 years and that you have made in a wide variety of other endeavors are going to make the next 6 years some of the best years that we've ever had in this country and in the state of Minnesota. So I just want to thank you all for being out here. I expect to be back shortly, I hope, and visit with you again. Thank you very much.
That was Senator Dave Durenberger talking like a winner, although the results are not in yet. With 36% of the vote in, we have Dayton with 50% of the vote, Durenberger 49% of the vote. There is 9,000 votes between the two. This could go well into the morning hours. Back to you, Pat.
Well, it does appear as though they are settled in for the evening, and this could go skip until the wee hours of the morning.
It certainly does look. You know, there's one interesting thing, if I can interject for half a second here. Rudy Perpich seems to be pulling at this point 71% of the votes from northeastern Minnesota, the Iron Range and that triangle up in there. Mark Dayton, on the other hand, is pulling 58% from that very same area. Now, Dayton needed, he said, 63. It's interesting that the Perpich coattails in that area aren't pulling Mark Dayton along at all. And the difference there between 71 or 72% and 58% would make a big difference in the percentages if they're just a percentage point or two off in the final analysis.
You don't regard 58% for Dayton a strong percentage
it's a strong
in
showing.
the range?
Sure, it's a strong showing. But not as
strong. It's not a coattail type.
No, and it's not as strong as he needed and was expecting from up there. I think he was expecting, or his campaign people were, more Perpich coattails in that area, and it apparently didn't happen.
Or hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet. Maybe at 4 in the morning that will change too. Who knows?
Come on.
We'll see anyway. Well, we do have some returns that are coming in now on the Hennepin County races, and we want to take a look here at the sheriff's race. It looks as if the incumbent Don Omott is way ahead in this particular race against Charlie Stenvig, the former mayor and police officer. Omott was 65%. That's with 47% of the precincts now reporting. Let's go now to the county commissioner race in District 1. Jeff Sparks, the incumbent, with 60% of the votes that are now in. That's with 87% of the precincts reporting over his opponent Norman. In District 2, that again is not Randy Johnson. That is Tom Johnson, the wrong photograph. But Randy Johnson, well ahead of his opponent Bruce Williamson in that race with 13% of the precincts reporting. Randy Johnson with 70% of the vote. In District 4 in Hennepin County, John Darris, again the incumbent, over his opponent, Steve Schock. John Darris with 77%. 30% of the precincts now reporting in that race. That was not expected to be a close race, by the way. John Darris has been popular in his district and is the incumbent, as I said.
The last thing you had on the Nancy Olcon, Mark Andrews, we didn't get a readout on that yet. Mark Andrews was leading her by a slight margin,
By
is
a
that
slight
correct?
margin, yes.
With only a small percentage of the
But
votes.
let's
in.
point out, Dave, that, and we did earlier, that Nancy Olcon has always been strong in the St. Louis Park area. They are on a computer system, and we get those results very late as a result of that. Now, she's been strong there, and that could be the deciding factor in that race. And I think we heard from Nancy Olcon earlier tonight, and she said she was counting on that.
Whatever happens to her, it'll tell us something about the party endorsement, which she did not get.
Well, it's certainly going to change the complexion of that board if Mark Andrew is sent to the Hennepin County Commissioner Board.
It strikes me as interesting, too, that computers normally are used to speed things up, and in the case of the St. Louis Park vote count, it's
Well, I think
slowing
it's
it
a
down.
complicated system, Skip,
It
that I
must be
wouldn't
a whale of
begin
a
to
count. Somebody must
explain.
not understand it, including me, I guess. Thank you. We have more state legislative races to report for you. A smattering in from all over the place. Falcon Heights Midway area, St. Paul, Neil Dietrich, no problem at all. District 64 in southwest St. Paul, the Ron Seeloff, the independent Republican incumbent, is doing well there. In the central St. Paul area, Don Moe walking away with it. No problem at all for the DFLer Don Moe. District 66, that's the Como-Phelan area. Gene Waldorf doing very well. 99% of the vote he's garnering right now. That's amazing. I have a hard time buying that one. District 67 in Ramsey County, 98% of the vote in, and Lantry's doing very well, or has it won there. Now this may be one of the most interesting legislative races as well. They are recounting this. At this very moment, these votes are all being retabulated. And I don't mean we're doing that, I mean the officialdom over in St. Paul. 50%, an even split between John Drew and Dick Cohen. We'll have to wait for a while to see how that one comes out. That otherwise would have been a final. 65A in Ramsey County. This one is a final. Fred Norton, no problem. He'll be back in the legislature again. In 65B, the downtown area, Frank Rodriguez winning handily there. That's a final, as a matter of fact. 66A, Tom Ostoff shouldn't have any problem at all. There's 92% of the vote in, and he's way ahead. 67A, this is a final, and it's Randy Kelly, 78% of the vote. He'll be back, and so will we in just a moment.
How far does a mom have to go to get wedding kits clean?
All the way to Thai country!
Where you can dress them for a wedding day.
But don't expect they'll stay that way.
There's an usher sitting on a supper.
Sauce on baby's bib and tucker.
Extraction wedding kids need extraction ties.
Why our boys have finger paint.
Watch out, it's wet.
Well, Mom never said that boy was a saint.
Just look at this wedding scene.
I ask you, will they ever get clean? Go ahead and splash them,
Mash 'em.
drop them, glop them. Claim your spot. Tide gets it clean.
Tide's America's favorite. From sauce to punch, titled Tough Clean It. You've just seen it. Now here's your future grooms and brides.
Same clothes, same kids. Now Sunday clean with extra action Tide.
Extraction wedding kids need extraction ties. Thai country!
Claim your spot. Tide gets it clean.
At some places, you get a free balloon with your purchase, or a potato peeler. Or if you buy a pair of socks, you get a pair free. Well, now at Slumberland, you buy this elegant sleep sofa and you get the matching love seat free. This queen-size sleep sofa is covered in rich Herculon, beautiful and long-wearing. It's selling now at Slumberland for just $499. In itself, an excellent price. But Slumberland isn't giving away any balloons. You buy this sleep sofa and we'll give you the matching love seat free. What a buy!
We have not checked in for quite some time with Jim Gately, our Washington correspondent, who tonight is our Wisconsin correspondent in Milwaukee. Jim?
Hello, David. It appears the two incumbent congressmen from Wisconsin will be returning to Capitol Hill. Let's go now to the 3rd District congressional race, where Steve Gunderson, the incumbent Republican, right now is leading 54% to 46%. Gunderson is in the 3rd congressional district, which includes La Crosse and Eau Claire. It's a district that has more cows than people. Gunderson won in 1980 by 51%, so he's don't call him a landslide Gunderson. But right now, with 27% of the vote in, he leads 54% to 46% over Paul Offner. Let's move now north to the 7th congressional district in Wisconsin, where longtime incumbent David Obey right now appears to be leading with 69% to Bernard Zimmerman, a local condominium developer, with just 31%, 29% of the vote in there. So it appears if these trends hold up, the two incumbents, one a Republican, one a Democrat, will be returning to Capitol Hill from western and northern Wisconsin.
All right, Jim, thank you. Well, we're going to turn now to Ramsey County, where a race that's been hotly contested and rather bitterly fought is generating quite a lot of attention, and that is the Ramsey County attorney race. Let's take a look now at some of the votes that are in, with 70% of the votes in. As you can see, Tom Foley ahead. He is the incumbent over Mike DeCoursey with 46% of the votes. Now that's with 70% of the precincts now reporting. As I mentioned earlier, this has been a rather interesting race. These two men are actually very similar, both in their mid-30s, both Irish Catholic, both attorneys, both from St. Paul. Right now we have Tom Hendrick standing by with Tom Foley, the incumbent. We're going to ask Tom to, as soon as he gets his cords all straightened out and unwound, see if he can't get Tom Foley over to the microphone so we can talk to him for just a bit, get his reaction to the votes that are now in. And with 70% of the vote that is in at this point, that of course is substantial. Here he is. Tom?
Yeah. Here we are, Pat. I've been looking for Tom. I just found him. I don't know what was just announced because I was looking for you. What was?
Well, I don't either. I understand that one of the television stations just announced that we were up by 9,000 votes, and it looked like we were going to win. So we're feeling very optimistic here. But obviously, the total results aren't in yet. But we're feeling very good about them.
Celebration hasn't begun yet, but you're waiting on it. Your increase, your margin has been getting larger, has it not, over the last hour or so?
Well, it has so far. We don't have the exact geographic breakdown, but we figured that as the out county came in, that we would start increasing our margins in out county, Ramsey County, and the people that have been voting for us, I'm very thankful. They've been very good and very supportive, and we feel good about it, but it's still a little bit early yet.
Do you think it would be this late in the evening before you knew anything?
No, I thought we should know by 10 o'clock. I thought with mostly machines in Ramsey County that the results would be in, but because of the large voter turnout, some precincts were running late, and it's just been a long time for all election results, but we're feeling very good, and the margins are looking well, just about what we anticipated, so we feel very good.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So optimism here, but they're just about ready to celebrate, as you can hear, but still too close to call. Back to you in the studio.
That's the kind of ambience we've been getting from the volleyball court of the Sawmill Barn Saloon up in Virginia, Minnesota, where Karen Boris has been standing by with the Perpich family. Karen?
We're here with Rudy Perpich, and I guess you're just saying you think Mark Dayton's going to make it. That's been a concern of yours this evening. What makes you feel that that's going to happen?
Well, the poll that was done that has been very accurate in my race had a poll of the 8th district, the 1st and the 2nd. And it showed me by 185,000 votes in those three, but it also showed Mark Dayton winning by 20,000. Now the turnout was even exceeded what they had calculated up here, and this is all paper ballots. I mean, it was just unbelievable. They ran out of ballots in Hibbing. So I believe once those ballots are counted, it's going to make a difference. And much like the primary, I think when they making those predictions, whoever did, that they didn't weigh in the factor of the overwhelming vote up here. It's unbelievable.
So at this point, you feel like Mark Dayton is going to emerge the victor?
It's going to be close. If it hadn't been for that rain, you know, we got hit with that rain, as you know, very hard rain at 6. It started raining about 3. It would have even been better. It's probably going to be close, but I think he's going to make it. I really believe he's going to pull it out by 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning like I did in the primary.
You told us earlier this afternoon that if he didn't make it, you would go without shoes tomorrow, and we've got about 2 inches of snow out there.
Well, I was in a good mood at that time, and you're not going to keep me to that, are you?
It's something you said. We're just kind of, we're kind of wondering.
Well, I'll just put on some very thick socks.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much, Rudy Perpich. We'll try. We're live here at the Sawmill Lounge on the volleyball court in Virginia, Minnesota. Back to you.
Based on that promise, should Mark Dayton win the Senate seat, I think our #1 news story tomorrow will take place in Virginia, Minnesota. Rudy Perpich walking barefoot.
The barefoot governor, yes, that would be interesting. He'll probably be hospitalized for a bad cold or pneumonia 2 days after that.
For an off-year election, we have not been overwhelmed with tight races. There are 2 or 3 which we ought to look at right now. Foremost, of course, is the Senate race between Mark Dayton and Senator Durenberger. 41% of the precincts reporting Dayton holding a 1% margin at this point. Minnesota Auditor, the incumbent, the office of which is held by Arnie Carlson, Republican now. That margin favoring Paul Wellstone has been about that. Well, as a matter of fact, the vote totals haven't changed in that race since about 9:30. And in U.S. District, the 1st District, this is, well, folks said that this would be a tight one. Tom Hagedorn has been a congressman let's see, since 1975, he has represented the 2nd District. He has since been reapportioned and is now the incumbent congressman in District 1. He is challenged by Tim Penny. He's only 30 years old, from New Richland, who was elected to the state Senate at the age of 24. And all of the people who, with us, Mike Walsh and Tom Hendrick among them, who have covered that District 1 race down there, said it was going to be a tight one, and we see now that it's a 50-49.
Penny has done a whale of a job campaigning down there. Hagedorn fell down, his campaign fell down for a couple of weeks, picked up in the last week or so, but no question that one looks like it's hanging in the balance, and kind of surprisingly so given the history of that district, but that's interesting. State Senate District 64, almost a complete race there, and Ron Seeloff, I think, is pretty close to winning it. Cohen and Drew, now this is the one they're recounting. It should be a final. It should be that Cohen has won. Dick Cohen, that is, the DFLer. But at this point, until they have recounted those votes and double checked them, I think we'll leave it hanging in the balance from our point of view.
Skip, before we go any farther, I wonder if we couldn't, since we did just hear from Tom Foley, if we couldn't check in now with Don Shelby, who I understand is standing by with Mike DeCourcy. We're going to go first to a commercial. When we come back, we were going to go to Don Shelby. We'll be right back.
Actress Jacqueline Bissett talks about relationships on the next Merv Griffin Show.
And I really want to believe in the relationship and commitment, and whether it's, I'm not saying it has to be forever, but that people who are together need to feel that the person they're with is not that easily changed. I mean, I think for oneself, one doesn't want to feel that one can be replaced just...
It's because he was a fellow who said what he thought.
Vincent Price offers the wit and wisdom of Oscar Wilde.
Discover the topping that tastes too good to stop with one plop. Dover Farms from Birdseye.
My dad can stop.
Dover Farms frozen whipped topping is whipped with real cream. That makes it too good to stop with one plop.
Dad!
Dover Farms from Birdseye. Real cream makes it taste too good to stop with one plop.
How embarrassing.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Well, the Ramsey County attorney race has turned out to be a very tight one. Not that that's unexpected. Tom Foley, as you can see, the incumbent is ahead with 54%. That's with 76% of the precincts now reporting. Has been a hard-fought battle between these two men. We just spoke to Tom Foley just a few minutes ago, and now we want to go to Don Shelby, who is standing by live with Mike DeCourcy, get his reaction. We wanted to get his reaction to the vote totals. We are having a couple of technical problems over at Mike DeCourcy's campaign party this evening. We will try to get back to that, though.
CBS has been making several projections. Its first series of projections happened to do with gubernatorial races throughout the country this week. It was so long ago, it seems like it was another day that they did this, and I can't recall what they came up with.
Well, it was the Democrats' big chance. A number of Republican incumbents chose not to run this year. That meant the Democrats had a shot at what turns out to be an open seat, and they did very well in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, and in some other races. Let's go to New York for that report.
Take a look at the whole picture. So we have tonight up 36 races for governor, and so far, Democrats have won 23 of them, Republicans 7, 6 remain undecided. Now, that breaks down to this. 20 of the seats up tonight were held by Republicans, and so far, all of these have held their seats. Democrats rather, are holding all, but Democrats have lost the State House in New Hampshire. 16 Republican state houses up tonight, and they have held on so far in Iowa, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Vermont. They have lost the state houses in Arkansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, Wisconsin, Texas, and Ohio. Now that comes out for a net gain of the Democrats of 6 state houses. When we started the evening, state houses were controlled in this way: 27 by the Democrats, 23 by Republicans, 6 now, at this point in the evening, 30 Democrats, 14 Republicans, with 6 still undecided.
Yes, indeed.
All right, we'll just recap again. That's a redundancy, but we've been full of them all evening long. Here we are, Skip, in your bailiwick at Senate District 53 in Ramsey County.
Still scattered returns in, David, out in the northern St. Paul suburbs, the White Bear Lake area. Fritz Canuck, the independent Republican there, is losing at this point. 6 of 27 precincts scattered returns once again from the Bloomington area, with Bellinger 57%, but that's a long way from calling that one. 46A, Crystal New Hope, Mooney, 47%, Hoker, 53%, but we only have 46% of the votes in there. 46% in from Hopkins as well, and Miller is at 48% with Olson's 52%. You know, it's amazing, though, when you stop and think about it, that you have 7% of the vote in from one area. The precinct across the street, literally, will almost be finished.
Well, the comparison there is St. Louis Park, I think, and Hopkins. I wonder if there are 2 different kinds of systems of tabulating the votes.
And obviously there are some differences, but sometimes you sit here and scratch your head and say, come on, give me some more.
I think they're in 2 different states.
Right. I do have some new figures on the Senate analysis on the Dernberger-Dayton race at this point. Northeastern Minnesota, Dayton's people predicting he needed 63% of the vote. He has 57 right now. That's 1 down from about 20 minutes ago when we last looked at it. In the Twin Cities metro area, Dayton's vote now at 53%. His people said he needed 50, slightly over what he thought he had to have. Southeastern Minnesota, 44 and 41. Dayton down there from what he needed. And in western Minnesota, 48 to 44, Dayton down there. The big one still continues to be northeastern Minnesota.
All right, let's go to the board and see what he has. I don't think this has changed appreciably since we last saw it. Well, there it is. Dernberger maintaining a 1%. The first time, let it be said that at 11:45, it's the first time this evening that the incumbent has moved ahead of Mark Dayton, albeit by such a slight margin, 50 to 49%, with 44% of the precincts in. Pat?
Boy, it is close, but I don't think a lot of people expected it to be this close.
I don't think so. Well, if you look at our poll, the CCO Dispatch poll released last night, which, and if I can dig it out from underneath all this other stuff, showed Dayton with 38% and Dernberger with 49, an 11-point difference. And obviously, this isn't turning out to be an 11-point difference.
Yeah, he said he had Mark Dayton said he had the momentum toward the end there, and he was right about that.
I think he may have peaked a week early.
We promised that we would talk to Mike DeCourcy, who of course is running for Ramsey County Attorney against the incumbent Tom Foley. Don Shelby standing by with him right now. Don, could we get Mr. DeCourcy's reaction to the vote totals that are in so far, which show him trailing Tom Foley?
Right, Patton. Well, we have some relatively new figures. I think the last thing we saw was of the 240 precincts, 150 had reported, with about 62% of the precincts in, showing Foley leading 54% to 46, but we've got 182 precincts reported here to the DeCourcy headquarters, and it shows about a 10,000 vote deficit that you have to make up, but That leaves about 70 precincts to report. So how do you feel this far into the evening?
Well, certainly a trend has been established, and we just got some new figures in that shows the lead is, my opponent's been increasing, so it's not to say that it's going very well at this point in time. However, we don't know where those precincts that have not reported, where they are. We had hoped that we would have some strength in the suburbs and stay close in the cities. Maybe we're not as strong in the suburbs as we had hoped, but we're not willing to give up at this point anyway and see what happens. It's a long night.
But you had predicted... It sounds as though you have some people who will stay with you through thick and thin.
These people have been through thick and thin, so this is nothing compared to how hard they've worked, and I thank them all. They know that, and we just hope for success, and whatever happens, happens.
But you expected a close race. You knew this would be a tough one. There were so many similarities in name recognition, both Irish Catholic boys, both attorneys. What were the differences?
I think the major difference right now is I think the mayor played an important role in the campaign. The endorsements by the DFL, we're both Democrats. That's the other thing that should be added in. But the endorsement is certainly a significant factor, and we knew that going into this. And the people have listened to the issues, and they'll decide what has to be done. And I don't think you can put your finger on any one thing, Don, that says this is what decided it, or this where we lost it if we do in fact lose. It's that the people made that decision, and whatever it is, we're ready, willing, and happy to live with it.
Okay, Mike, now that's a 10,000 vote deficit right now with about 70% of the precincts in. Still about 80 precincts left to go to report, and some of those may be in the suburbs where Mike DeCourcy thought he would have some strength. Certainly people here at DeCourcy headquarters are going to stay with him throughout the night to find out how those precincts report. And with that, we're going to send it back to you, Dave, for some more returns.
After we have told you that we'll be back with more computer vote total in just a moment.
Something smells good. Oh, you made coffee.
Yeah, and it tastes great.
Of course. It's Maxwell House Master Blend.
Isn't that supposed to save us money?
Mm-hmm. It only tastes expensive.
Master Blend, a special blend of 100% coffee we make a special way so you can save money. Master Blend, it only tastes expensive.
As their space shuttle enters morning orbit, a grungy film orbits their mouths.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
Scope?
Mine lasts. Your medicine breath, that's what lasts.
Works, doesn't it?
Scope works. Leaves your breath minty fresh. Try.
Minty fresh. Feels like it's working.
To Mars and back. Morning, Colonel.
Buzz off, Bert.
Scope fights bad breath, doesn't give medicine breath.
Does our country need more bombs? Bigger bombs? On a recent Donahue show, two clergymen waged a verbal battle about nuclear war.
The nuclear arms race is insane and it's madness.
We're talking about Russia. We're talking about a bunch of liars. We're talking about immoral.
But it is not ours to judge. It is ours to save. God is the last judge. He's the only judge.
Donahue, perhaps the most important television program of your day.
Donahue, weekday mornings at 8 on WCCO television.
Another can, Charlie. That's a can?
That's Hefty's new steel sack, the bag that works like a can.
It's plastic.
It's a new plastic formula, Linear D. Linear D. So strong and puncture resistant. New steel sack can hold more than ordinary bags.
Even impossible trash?
Without split.
Without split? That's some bag, Charlie.
Strong.
Like a can.
New Hefty steel sack trash and tall kitchen bags. The bag that works like a can.
WCCO Television, in cooperation with Control Data, present Computer Vote Total.
Let's check the races in the 8 congressional districts in Minnesota, beginning in District 1. where it's the real battle of the evening, and everyone expected it to be just that. Tom Hagedorn, for all intents and purposes, through reapportionment, is the incumbent in this redistricted 1st district, has a 50% margin, or 50% to 49 over Tim Penny. In the new District 2, Vin Weber, who has served District 6, 55 to 45 over Jim Nichols. That's the CBS television network. In the 3rd, 4th, and 5th districts are the Twin Cities metropolitan area districts. There have been no races there to speak of. In the 3rd district, Bill Frenzel has a strong margin over his perennial opponent, Joel Slitterman. This is his 3rd try against Frenzel. Bruce Vento, same in the St. Paul and Ramsey County's 4th district against Bill James, the Honeywell engineer. In the 5th congressional district, Martin Sabo has eliminated Keith Johnson. Interesting thing about that, Sabo's sister was Keith Johnson's 6th grade teacher. If you look at some of the material you're handed through these, you come up with some very interesting statistics. Martin Sabo will go back to Congress. In the new 6th district, Jerry Sikorsky, the 34-year-old DFLer from Stillwater, 6 years in the state legislature. He is currently the majority whip. And Skip, if I'm right, if Arlen Erdahl is defeated, it'll be the first time he's been out of a state job through state auditor, state public service commissioner, and secretary of state and congressman for about 10 or 12 years.
You're right.
Sikorsky has a strong lead over Congressman Erdahl. Now, here we go. This is the 3rd time that Gene Wenstrom has opposed Arlen Stanglin up in the northwestern Minnesota 7th Congressional District. However, only 32% of the precincts are reported. Nonetheless, Wenstrom has a 51% to 49% lead over Arlen Stanglin, and that's certainly a race we're going to keep our eye on.
The real telling thing on that is we don't know where those votes came from. It would be interesting if we did. If that's holding up, if that's St. Cloud votes.
Well, now that goes down to Anoka County, part of Anoka County District 7, or it butts up against Anoka County.
Yeah, it butts up against it. But if those votes reflect any real number of St. Cloud votes, then that would be a very interesting phenomenon. That would give Wenstrom momentum there that would be hard for Stanglin to regain back. If indeed it doesn't yet, we'll have to see what happens.
Isn't that strange?
I would guess Stanglin would do well in St. Cloud.
Wenstrom from Elbow Lake and Stanglin from Barnesville. It's certainly a long way from St. Cloud and Stearns County. And as you saw there, James Oberstar undoubtedly will be returned to Congress to represent the 8th district. He has a strong lead over 71-year-old Marjorie Luce. Let's take some state returns. I think we can call some races here, beginning with Attorney General Skip Humphrey of New Hope. I think, well, should we?
9% of the vote in. I think you're going to be hard-pressed to call that one, David.
All right, 66 to 33% over Elliot Rothenberg, although I notice UPI has called that race, as it has indeed in the treasurer's race. Bob Mattson, 57% over Bon Clayton. Again, only 7% of the votes are in that race. Where are those things? They come in on the same ballot with the senator and the governor. Auditor, Paul Wellstone has the same lead that he had over Arnie Carlson 2 hours ago. 7% of the vote in. Wellstone is the DFL challenger to Mr. Carlson.
Votes are coming in by Amtrak from Coochiching County, and they'll probably arrive sometime 3 weeks from now.
Well, you want to call this one? 7% of the vote in. Madam Secretary of State.
I'll buy Joan Grow as a call.
68% to 29%. She'll hold on to her office. If Mark Hansen had it, he said he would abolish it.
It's interesting that Bob Mattson can come in, garner that kind of vote, and basically do no campaigning.
And live in Florida
money,
for the years ahead of time.
Well, I think that's a strange thing, because they have accused or charged young Mattson of being in a name recognition situation. Be it known that the recognition was his father, who was an interim attorney general
in 1962.
Fritz Mondale was appointed to the Senate by Karl Rovag. Mattson served a very short term. Robert Mattson Jr. was only the state auditor for 4 years, from 75 to 79, and kept a rather low profile, except when he went into St. Paul.
His father was, although just an interim attorney general, was extremely well known in DFL circles.
Oh, in the political circles, yes.
But realize that there is another whole generation of voters who were born after the time that name was well known. And so, like you, it may have an effect on us, but I have a hard time buying that the 18 to 25-year-old even knows who his dad was.
Well, I'm going to find it interesting to discover if Mark Dayton wrests the Senate seat away from David Durenberger, and how are all of the other DFL victors going to treat Robert Metzen, who has been something of an anathema to the DFL party. The Credentials Committee, I believe it was, wouldn't listen to him. He did not get the party endorsement.
No.
He is run as something of a maverick, and I'm sure when they're all up there on the podium, along with all the other DFL winners, somehow they're going to have to make some kind of a gesture to embrace him and bring him into the party.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens on that. We do have some new votes that have come in now on the 4 state amendments, if we could take a look at those. Amendment number 1, which would establish an appeals court with 9% of the precincts reporting. As you can see, there's been an overwhelming yes vote for those who voted for the amendments. Again, if you did not vote for the amendments, you in effect voted no. Amendment number 2, highway bonding, would raise the ceiling for the state to let out bonds for highway and bridge improvements, with 9% of the precincts reporting. Again, another overwhelming yes vote, 195,595. Amendment number 3, the one that's got Jack Pine Bob so excited, pari-mutuel betting, with 9% of the precincts voting. An overwhelming yes vote there, 205,361. And amendment number 4, very similar to amendment number 2, rail improvement, with 9% of the precincts, another overwhelming yes vote, little over 221,000 people saying yes, they would go for that.
If we'd had a 5th amendment, I could have swallowed the last bite of that sandwich. But since we have not, let's check the Durenberger-Dayton totals again, and let's see if they have changed at all. No. The senator still has that frightening to him, I suppose, 1% margin over his DFL challenger, Skip.
Well, then let's take a look and see whether we have any new figures in to compare to what Mark Dayton said he had to have in the various districts and what he's actually getting. There we go.
Oh, my.
Well, let's see. Northeastern Minnesota. Oh, it just keeps dropping, doesn't it? Dayton down to 56%. His people said he had to have 63. Dayton just barely ahead from the Twin Cities from what they thought they had to have. That margin down a bit. Southeastern Minnesota. This one Dayton has been down on the whole time, not substantially if things had gone the other way in Northeast. Western Minnesota, that's holding about where it was 15 or 20 minutes ago, too. But needless to say, things are not looking up for Mark Dayton right now.
Let's see how things are going in the Wisconsin races, which Jim Gately has been covering from Milwaukee. Jim?
David, further evidence that 2 Wisconsin incumbents will be returning to Capitol Hill. Let's now go to the 3rd congressional district, where Steve Gunderson, a 31-year-old freshman incumbent, will be returning right now with 36% of the vote in. He has a 54 to 46 percentage lead, which incidentally is 3 points better than he did in 1980. His opponent is from La Crosse, a PhD from Princeton. Paul Offner is trailing badly. Gunderson, incidentally, besides going to the University of Wisconsin, also attended a school of broadcasting. Okay, now moving north to the 7th Congressional District. David Obey, longtime incumbent, first time elected in 1969 with 39% of the vote, and he holds a healthy lead, 69 to 41%. Bernard Zimmerman, a condominium builder, will apparently fail at his first try at public office. So we thought this earlier, and now it's almost confirmed, rather, if these trends continue, that 2 incumbents from across the river, one a Republican, one a Democrat, will be returning to Capitol Hill. Back to you.
And we shall return with more of Computer Vote Total in just a moment.
At some places, you get a free balloon with your purchase, or a potato peeler. Or if you buy a pair of socks, you get a pair free. Well, now at Slumberland, you buy this elegant sleep sofa, and you get the matching love seat free. This queen-size sleep sofa is covered in rich Herculon, beautiful and long-wearing. It's selling now at Slumberland for just $499. In itself, an excellent price. But Slumberland isn't giving away any balloons. You buy this sleep sofa, and we'll give you the matching love seat free. What a buy!
Mmm, delicious hot cereal. What is it?
Mmm, great. What is it?
Yummy. What is it?
Grape nuts?
It's a great hot taste from an unexpected place. Hot grape nuts. The recipe's easy. The result? A savory blend of wholesome wheat and barley, deliciously hearty, uniquely grape nuts. For a great hot taste from an unexpected place, hot grape nut cereal.
the Two Turtles Day.
This has been a Two Turtles Day.
Turtles are choice pecans, creamy caramel, and rich milk chocolate. Uniquely delicious, even if you don't have a Two Turtles Day. Taste turtles, uniquely delicious.
It's been some time since we have looked in on the national scene, so let's do that right now at 2 minutes after 12 and join the CBS television network where its election returns are in progress.
One going away. And about this point, I expected we'd see a little graphic that was going to show all that, but there must be a good reason for not seeing it. Be that as it may, liberal senators have won. People like Regal out in Michigan, people like Sarbanes in Maryland, all those people that were supposed to be 2 years ago targets of the conservatives, the Nick-back people, were supposed to lose. They all won tonight.
Bob, I'm reminded that Spark Matsunaga, the incumbent Democratic senator in Hawaii, that war veteran, came to Washington when he was first elected, and that Russell Long immediately, almost immediately, created a subcommittee for him called Tourism and Sugar, and somebody said, whatever happened to the pineapples? But he's a very popular senator, as is shown by the result there, and it was not an unexpected result. Leslie Stahl, you have two big, close races. Jerry Clower, the Southern humorist, tells a story about, it's too long to tell, but it finally ends with a punchline. Listen, shoot up here amongst us. One of us got to have some relief. And you have to think that they're feeling that way in Illinois and California, the candidates in both of those races.
Well, these races may also provide some relief for the White House, although CBS News estimates say they're both still too close to call. But let's first look at the vote in California. Tom Bradley, the mayor of Los Angeles, with 10% of the precincts reporting, with about 43% of the vote. George Deukmejian, the Attorney General of California, with 57% of the vote at this time. This was expected to be close in the final days of the campaign, but let me tell you, there's some bad signs for Bradley in our exit polls. Bradley is running behind where Jerry Brown won last time amongst traditional Democrats in areas where he would have to roll up large margins, for example, in Los Angeles and the other big cities and in the Bay Area. And Deukmejian is running ahead where the Republican was last time in Southern California in the suburbs. Yes?
Leslie, forgive me for interrupting, but very good news for the Republicans. In Missouri, Senator John Danforth appears to have pulled it out against a very tough Democratic opponent, Harriet Woods, so-called give 'em hell Harriet Woods. She ran a Harry Truman kind of campaign, blunt, direct, took it to John Danforth. A lot of Republicans thought this one was sayonara and goodbye, but our CBS News estimate is that Danforth will, after all is said and done, will have won it with a margin of about 51%. Well, Bob Sheeper, there's another cause for celebration on the part of the Republicans.
It certainly is, and here's another surprise, Dan. On a night when women have been voting for Democrats around the country, we've talked a lot about this gender gap. Harriet Woods did not do as well among women as other Democrats did throughout the evening. She carried the women's vote, 52 to 47%, but in other races around the country, Democratic candidates got a bigger vote from women. I don't know how to explain that yet, but that's what the exit polls tell us.
We'll come back to the why of that later on. Very interesting race out there. Now, Leslie, we'd like to continue with the governors.
Let me just say one more thing about California. If Tom Bradley loses, analysts will be trying to figure out whether there was a hidden anti-black vote out there. Deukmejian was behind until his campaign manager went public with the notion that there might be a hidden anti-black vote. Deukmejian fired him for saying that, but from that point on, he started to rise in the polls. And it'll be days before we can figure it out, but that may or may not have been a factor in that race if Bradley loses. Okay, next let's look at Illinois, which again CBS News is saying is too close to call. With 75% of the precincts in, Stevenson has a slight lead. However, here again, we have gotten returns in from Chicago, from the city, where large numbers of Democrats have poured out. However, we have not gotten returns from the more Republican areas around the city in the so-called collar counties, the suburban counties of DuPage, Kane, and Lake. And with those late returns in, this may tip it the other way for Stevenson later in the evening. Unemployment is very high in Illinois, 12.5%, and Stevenson, who made many mistakes in his campaign, as we've talked about, bringing up the whole WIMP issue, was not expected to win, but he is doing well. But when those suburban Republican votes come in, it may turn the other way. We've been talking about the importance of governor's races to the presidential campaign in 1984. A sitting governor can offer his party a built-in organization for that campaign. And so it's important to look at the Big Ten and see how those big races with the large electoral votes are going. So far, 3 of the Big Ten states have shifted from Republican to Democrat tonight: Ohio, Michigan, and Texas. When the Republicans had 6 of these states going in, as of now they only have 2. But again, they stand to pick up or to hold on in Illinois and could take over in California. So as you've been saying, it could even be a mixed message in the end about the governor's races if California and Illinois go Republican, as well as Pennsylvania. So some of the big states will still be in Republican hands.
George Deukmejian, the Republican gubernatorial candidate in California, it was an especially tough race for Tom Bradley, and we haven't called the race yet, in that Deukmejian in many ways took away part of Bradley's strength, and that Deukmejian is so strong on the law and order anti-crime issue.
Well, but you know, the voters of California were telling pollsters, the way voters elsewhere were, that unemployment and the economy were their major concern and not crime. So it's hard to tell what was the determining factor, but then again, it's really a close race. It isn't just that CBS News is finding it difficult to name a winner. It's a truly close race out there.
But as we've tried to drive home all evening long, we pride ourselves on being careful and cautious.
One other thing, Dan, Jerry Brown, Deukmejian tried to link Bradley and Brown. Many of his ads promoted that notion that a vote for Bradley was giving you the same old administration that you've had. And with Jerry Brown losing as badly as he did, this too could have been a big factor.
Bruce Morton, while Democrats in the House had a very good night of it in the South, as well as in some other sections of the country, there was one disappointment for them below the Mason-Dixon line.
There was indeed, Dan. In Mississippi's 2nd District, that's the Delta, Greenville, Mississippi, that part of the state, state legislator named Robert Clark had hoped to become the first black to go from Mississippi to Congress since Reconstruction. He failed. He lost to Republican Webb Franklin. Leslie talked about whether race was an issue in the California gubernatorial election. That's the question here, too. The district is black in population, but the majority of the registered voters are white. Clark needed white support. He got endorsements from the state's white political establishment, but clearly he didn't get enough white votes to win. Webb Franklin's slogan, "The One for Us," led some people to speculate maybe that was racism. Franklin and the Republicans denied